What if Vader had an apprentice? Well, it's an easy question to answer because there happened to be a video game made of it, and we're talking about that video game today. So stay tuned for a discussion about Starkiller.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode, another wizard episode of the Empire Radio Podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Drew.
And like I mentioned in the intro, today we are talking about Starkiller from the Force Unleashed video games, the first game in the sequel, and the promised and very well set up third game that never happened. But that's another discussion topic for later. But interestingly enough, this is not an EU with Andrew episode because it wasn't actually my idea. This is the big surprise for this week. Okay, so this actually has nothing to do with me. I would have loved to talk about this at some point, but this actually came from none other than Jeremiah. Oh, hold on. This came from,
I thought you were getting ready to do it.
This came from none other than Jeremiah. There you go. And not me this time. And it's funny, Jeremiah, earlier in the Discord, I posted the thumbnail that we will use for YouTube for this episode to get people hyped like I normally do. And we were talking, a few of us were talking about it, and Daddy Palps, per the usual, he just kind of comes in and drops something and then leaves. But this was like, I'm getting in my excitement essentially before Jeremiah tells us that it doesn't matter at all because it's not canon. And I was like, well, funny you should mention that because it was his idea.
I saw that,
so I thought that was funny.
And what was Tanner's thing? Is like, I'm excited for this, but I'm not looking forward to Jeremiah destroying my favorite.
Yeah.
And the same thing. I was like, well, it's funny because it was actually Jeremiah's idea.
Doesn't mean he won't destroy it.
Well, yeah. I actually, neither Drew nor myself know what he thinks about these games.
True.
So we're going on this ride with everyone else from that standpoint. But he did just finish playing both of the games, and so he was like, well, why don't we talk about Starkiller and talk about kind of a brief summary of the events of the games, and then talk about his character, and then kind of wrap things up with like, do we think he would be a good canon character? How would they bring him in? I mean, like, this whole episode is just kind of a revisiting of his character in general and everything that means and encapsulates. So it's a little bit different from an EU with Andrew episode. There's no presentation. The next one is coming, and it's going to be about Darth Bane in 2 weeks, I believe.
Ooh.
If I can get my information
2 weeks.
together. 2 weeks.
Dang. So now we still have to figure out what we're doing next week.
Don't say that. We have everything planned out for the next 6 months.
What the heck? This is just a way to take all of our feet and just slam them into your mouth. Why don't you? Like,
I'm just
dang,
kidding.
dude.
I'm just kidding. We have plans.
Okay.
Anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna be doing one on Darth Bane. So this isn't E with Jeremiah, but this is a big deal because this was his idea. So yeah, we're talking about the game. I'm sure a vast majority of our listeners, our Discord members, the people who watch these episodes, like the video versions of these episodes on YouTube later, know about the Force Unleashed games. They came out in like my heyday of playing video games for me when I was younger. Because The Force Unleashed came out in 2008, and then The Force Unleashed 2 came out in 2010, so 2 years later. So 2008, I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade.
I was a senior in high school.
So like that for me, like that was like prime. Sit down with the PlayStation 2 on the weekends. Go bring my PlayStation in a backpack to a friend's house, because like this was before, like this was really before even LAN parties were like becoming big, like a thing. And so like I don't know if you guys remember.
Really? I thought LAN parties have been around forever.
Maybe they have. Like it wasn't super popular on PlayStation because like we didn't have Halo.
True.
As like a native game.
That was like an Xbox thing for sure.
Yeah, like I guess so. You could do that on Call of Duty, and you could play 2-player games on Call of Duty as well, or 2-player modes or whatever on most games actually. But like I just remember, for me personally, like packing up my PlayStation 2 in a bag, like in a book bag with all the cables and the controllers and stuff, and like physically taking it to friends' houses to play games that lived in my neighborhood, or like they would bring their console over. So that's how we shared that experience. I don't know if any of our listeners had that experience, but that was my experience. It was always like, you want to spend the night? Yeah, dude, you can bring your PlayStation. Yeah, sweet. Or someone would bring their games, because like me and all of my brother-in-laws now, who were just my really close like best friends at the time, we both had PlayStation, so we would like borrow games from one another, swap games, bring games over to each other's houses. 9 times out of 10, it was me bringing my games over to their house because I always went over there instead. So, anyways, all that to say, these games coincide with a really fun time, nostalgic time in my life. It's like going right into high school. You have no idea what you're doing with your life. High school is scary.
I'm almost 32 and I still don't know what to do with my life.
Yeah, but you were like on your way out of high school, so you were like taking a step.
I had all kinds of hope and dreams and ambitions. Yep.
Yeah. So, Drew, how old were you in 2008 when this came out?
Oh, math.
6. You have been 2 years younger than me, so 16.
16.
Wow. So you probably didn't care about this game.
No, I was trying.
Let me ask you something. Have you played these games?
I've dabbled in both of them, but I haven't completed. I almost beat 1, I remember, but I've never actually beat 2. But
Okay.
my brother was super into them. My older brother.
Yeah. So Jeremiah, you just recently played these games for the first time, right?
Yes. So here's the story.
Yeah.
All the background. So for a long time, I've been wanting to play the games because I've known that they've been fan favorites for a very long time, but I've never, whatever. And I remember watching the Force Unleashed 2 cinematic trailer of him escaping the facility. I remember watching that. I thought that was like the coolest thing. But it's kind of funny because one of my friends from high school, Chet, what he does, he's cool at this. He buys out video game stores that are like shutting down, like buys all the games and then has giant video game sales. And so like he'll literally have thousands and thousands of games like put on tables in his yard. And then
Chet is a hustler.
He is. He does this all the time. And so
dang,
I always tell him like I need a cheap PlayStation 3 and a Force Unleashed 1 and 2 and like get me that and then give me a deal on it type of thing. But like it's never happened. But so I've always been for a few years now I've been like wanting to actually do it. But our good and faithful mod Tanner, like at the beginning of the year was like, hey, I have a PlayStation 3 and the 2 games, like you can borrow them. I'm like, okay, that's an intriguing thing. So like what, a month ago or whatever it was, I was making some cookie dough and I made a lot of it and I froze some of it. I was like, hey. Oh, and then I posted on Discord like pictures of my cookies that I made, and I was like, "Oh, those are cool." And Tanner was like, "Man, I want some." I was like, I have some cookie dough in the freezer. I can trade you some cookie dough for your PlayStation 3 and both games. And he's like, deal. So then like a week or two later, he came by and we
Did the whole
swapped.
swap.
And so he dropped off his PlayStation 3 into 2 games. And so that's how I was able to come in possession of them and play them. So I was very pumped. And
I just look down and I see Daddy Palps. Jeremiah has a drug dealer for gaming.
Yeah,
a game dealer.
So it was really funny because like I grabbed the PlayStation 3 controller and it weighed like nothing.
Yeah.
Compared to the PlayStation 4. I'm like, what?
Dude,
you
should hold a PS5. It's like,
is it heavy? Super
it's
heavy?
Huge. It's like the size of, I don't know. You probably haven't, but the Pro controller for the Switch, it like makes that tiny. It's really big and has a really big pad, but then it also has a mic connected to it, so you don't even have to like have a headset. You can talk through the controller. It's kind of cool.
Interesting. But yes, PlayStation 3. It's been a long time since I've played on one.
Yeah. Yeah, this was quite a surprise. It was an unexpected surprise, but a welcome.
Yeah, and that first game so Tanner came over on Saturday. That night I started playing it, and Sunday evening I beat the first game.
Wow.
And then the second game, which was shorter, took me like just 3 days because I didn't have as much time. But like last week I picked it up and started playing and beat it.
Well, so let's kind of recap some of the appeal, I guess, for people who haven't experienced this. Because I mean, like, I guess I'm having to face the fact that we have podcast listeners who are young enough that they might not have even played this yet, you know, or old enough,
or old enough where they missed it or forgot.
Yeah, they missed it. So the appeal for this game was like, regardless of the story, like I remember the trailers or the commercials at the time, because it was like, dude, I wasn't on YouTube. It was like I would see a commercial about it or something, and you see this guy, and he's just like stupid OP. Like in the trailers, he's like blowing people away. There was one I remember in slow motion where he like does the force. Jeremiah, you're gonna have to be like the force power expert for this game.
Force repulse. That's what it is.
Where he like curls up in midair and lets it go, and he's like disintegrating stormtroopers and stuff. And I was like, "What is this?" Because like at the time, it's like not in nowhere have we seen like the sheer power of a force user like it, to this extent. And you're like, as a kid, you're like, what? This is so cool. Like he's like throwing his lightsaber and taking people down. He's super fast. He's super powerful. And then you play the games, and like literally the whole thing of the game, I could argue that the story, while the story is good, was really just kind of a
letdown.
No, just kind of a vessel to support just being overpowered in the force. Because like the whole thing, like mechanic of the game, is unlocking force powers, being super powerful. And like, sure, you're on a mission or multiple missions, and there's an overarching story, but it's like you're just stupidly powerful in the more practical, like combative aspects of the force. And then another thing that was really cool for me as a kid was the lightsaber customization and like the skin customization and kind of the whole mechanics of the good ending versus the bad ending, depending on, you know, the choices and stuff. It's like, I know that was a thing, but for me as a gamer, that was one of the first kind of, you know, introductions that I had to that sort of a thing, because it was Star Wars. Because like at the time, like the only games that I was really playing heavily were like, I loved the Need for Speed games. I put so many hours in to Need for Speed Underground 2, and
I played it. I can't remember if I played one or two, but
Midnight Club Dub Edition, dude, that was another one because it was free roam. I put so much time, not money, into that game. So it was like those games, and then Star Wars were my games. Like I didn't get into Call of Duty until like high school. So, anyways, so yeah, that was kind of the main appeal of the game, was you were super OP, you You could just like blow stuff away with the Force. Your lightsaber combat was crazy. You could outfit your lightsabers with like different crystals, and it was kind of a primitive version of Fallen Order. Jeremiah, as someone who's recently played these, I mean, would that not be accurate?
Well, it's similar to how you would just like in Fallen Order, as you progress in the game, you would remember previous things you learned, and so
that was in the second game, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm about to say.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So in the second, in Force Unleashed 2, because Starkiller is a clone, he's remembering things.
That's controversial.
He's remembering things that he learned originally as the OG Starkiller. So there's that same thing, but also in that first game, you're still learning abilities as you go.
I'm looking down and I see Izzy in the Twitch stream who said that was the first time we saw a Darksaber, which is true. It was the first time there was the negative crystal, the negative style crystal, lightsaber crystal. And then I see Daddy Palps. No. Fallen Order is a poor man's Force Unleashed.
Okay.
So anyways, let's dive into the character of Starkiller, and kind of a synopsis of what happened in the first and the second game. So in the first game, okay, so first and foremost, I think this goes without saying, but spoilers.
Spoilers?
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to enjoy all of this and relive the story for yourself without knowing what happens, this is your chance to pause, I guess. But
real quick, the mechanics of the game, Jeremiah, can you refresh us how it is? Like, is it kind of like?
Well, do you want me to get into that with my review of the game, or do you want me to?
I think we should wait to for the review for that.
Okay, cool. I just don't remember at all what the mechanics are in that game.
Yeah. So in the first game, you find out pretty early on. I mean, you find out in the first level that Starkiller is who, fun fact, was going to be the original name of Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
The last name was Starkiller. But Starkiller is actually the son of a Jedi who had kind of exiled himself on Kashyyyk to help the Wookiees, and
I felt so bad killing all those Wookiees.
Because like the first mission, you're playing as Darth Vader. It's like the hey, here's how to use the Force and a lightsaber, and you're just mowing them down.
I felt so bad.
So for everyone in the Discord who talks about killing Wookiees all the time, there's your moment. You can go relive that in the Force Unleashed 1.
Yeah. Boom. Killing Wookiees is fun. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So anyways, so you find out the Starkiller as a character is the son of this Jedi, and it's crazy. So I have personally read the novels, the novelizations of these games. So from time to time, based on the memories that come up, I'll probably add some anecdotes in there. But this first major plot point is like Vader's on the ground. They're killing Wookiees left and right. You go into this hut, and there's a moment where Vader is facing off against this Jedi who really is kind of a nameless throwaway character other than the fact that he's Starkiller's father. And Vader's like, where's your master? There's someone more powerful here. And the guy's like, joke's on you. I don't have a master, or my master died or whatever. And then this child force pulls Vader's lightsaber out of his hands. And it's a sign of how powerful he is. He ends up Vader kills his father, and he's like, come on, there'll be more of them. He actually kills the Imperials that are there too as witnesses, because he's like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to steal a kid and make him my apprentice. So no one's gonna know. And like, I think it's funny because like the child Starkiller is like looking up, and he was like, dude, you just killed my dad. And Vader's like, hurry, there'll be more coming. And it's just like, no. Like, but then you don't have a choice, it's a complex situation. But it's interesting because the books, throughout all of these instances, all of these scenarios and the scenes from the games, you get as with all of the other books, you get the internal monologues, these internal moments that are happening. And so there's more emphasis placed on the moments of use of the Force. And so there's more of an emphasis placed on what Vader is sensing at the time. And he does talk about how just incredibly, there's this presence, and it's like really, really powerful. And he can sense it as he gets closer and as he's in the hut, which I thought was very cool. And, you know, in moments like we'll talk about in a little bit with the Star Destroyer on Raxus, like there's a very like huge internal moment of him like tapping into the Force and describing what he's feeling. And like, anyways, it's super, super cool. So Jeremiah, I don't know if you were prepared for this or not, but since you were the one who most recently played the video games, I figured you would be the best suited to walk us through like a 30,000 foot view of the events of these games.
Okay, so the first game, you're basically like you said, it opens up as a child, but then right after that you're an adult. So this is 15 years later or whatever, and so you're just going out, and Vader's sending you on missions to go kill Jedi that are out in the galaxy.
Yep.
And so you do that a few times, and then Vader is, because all this is because Palpatine does not know Starkiller exists, and so but eventually when Vader and Starkiller are together on like a ship, like a Star Destroyer or something, Palpatine shows up because he's been following all this, what he's been doing. So he's knew all along. And so he confronts Vader and Starkiller and says, like, Vader, either you kill Starkiller or I'm going to kill you and then take him as my apprentice or something like that.
Yeah.
And so Vader he kills Starkiller, supposedly, and Palpatine thinks, okay, now we're good.
Yep.
But he kind of just threw him out in space and had him rescued, which felt like he was out in space longer than he could survive, but whatever.
We'll get into that in just
and
a second.
So he rescues Starkiller from outer space, and then he wants to continue to train him, but because Palpatine knows of Starkiller, Vader's like, you need to start a distraction that makes Palpatine put all of his focus on, so that we can still do our thing. And so Starkiller is tasked with starting the Rebel Alliance.
The Rebel Alliance, yeah.
And so he's out there pretending to be like a good guy and getting people like Princess Leia and Bail Organa and some other characters. And then, but Vader's just doing that as a means to get these leaders together, and then he shows up and attacks them. And that's when Starkiller has to kind of like make his decision on what side he's on, the rebellion side or being faithful to Vader type of thing. And then at the end, it's just him fighting off, going against Vader because he picks the rebellion side. And so you have to fight Vader once, and then once you defeat Vader the first time, in a sense, like you have to pick between killing Vader, like finishing him off, or facing Palpatine. And so if you kill Vader, you're basically joining Palpatine to become his new apprentice. If you kill Palpatine, it's to help the Rebel Alliance, like kill the Emperor, basically. So that's the first game, and so you can choose either path at the end. And so then the second game is just, it starts out in...
Can we pause here for a second?
Yes.
Okay, so some things that I wanted to hit that were really crazy at the time were the additions of the different characters and the places that these games took the Star Wars universe as you were playing them. Because I mean, at the time, there was nothing to fill this gap. So like this was this was kind of assumed to be canon at the time, because there wasn't anything, we didn't have anything that was pointing to this time to fill that gap. We didn't have another story of the formation of the rebellion. We didn't have, none of that had been touched.
Really? Even with all the EU books, there was never any, like, between 3 and 4 stuff?
So there are some, but they really focused more on Jedi and, like, survivors of Order 66 or Kenobi, like, way more than the formation of the rebellion. I could be wrong, but last time I checked, like, there wasn't a ton about this stuff specifically.
Okay.
And so it was really cool because, like, you know, Jeremiah mentioned these missions of killing Jedi, and that's kind of the format. It's like you do a training mission. All right, here's your first task. Go do this. Here's your second task. Go do this. Here's your third. And at the end of those 3 tasks, there's a Jedi kind of final boss. And the whole, I mean, it's a game, so it's structured that way to be repetitive, but also to keep things interesting. So these Jedi, you've got General Ram Koda. You've got, what is it, Kaz Imperatus. And then you've shot Shakti. So your first task is Ram Koda, who was a general during the Clone Wars. You find out he didn't trust clones as soldiers, so he had a militia instead of the clones.
Oh, interesting.
And they kind of look like the early rebel soldiers. Their kind of outfits remind you of that. And he has been outwardly making attacks on the Empire, on Imperial targets for a long time, to try to get the attention of Vader and draw him out so he can kill him. But he's a Jedi Master. He's a powerful Jedi. And he didn't have clones around him. So he never got hit with Order 66 and survived the Purge. And so, like, that's your first task. You fight him. You end up winning, of course. You end up taking the whole space station that he's on down. Like, he ends up, like, basically force pulling it down in the middle of the fight as you're trying to beat him. And as you're falling into the planet's atmosphere, you end up, like, blade locked in one of the cinematics. And he's like, there's this moment where he's like, Vader won't be your only master, boy. I sense another master in your future. And then he's like, I only see, and he's like, me. And it's like this face of shock. And then you hit his lightsaber against his own eye, so it blinds him. And then he falls out, presumably to his death. So you win that fight. The next fight, you have to go to the droid graveyard of Raxus. What is it, Raxus Prime?
Something like that,
yeah. But it's like you have a droid companion with you, and you have a pilot, Juno Eclipse, who plays a really big role. But your droid, he's like your training droid, and also kind of acts as a protocol droid a little bit, some of those roles. And
it was interesting how, because his name is Proxy, the droid.
Correct.
And
yeah.
he was like, rather than having like a hologram message, like he would become the hologram and be like a physical.
Correct. Well, because he was a training droid.
Yeah.
So he had different training programs where he would, like, take on the appearance of Obi-Wan, or take, like, in the book, it actually goes into great detail of training situations that you don't see that are, like, off screen in the game. So, like, I'm pretty sure there's one where he's Maul.
Ooh.
That wasn't a training. That was him trying to kill Starkiller. Because, like,
Well,
part of the thing is, like, eventually I'm going to betray you and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the running joke, because his goal as a training droid is to kill him at however he can, and Starkiller's goal is to be good enough that he doesn't die. Like,
yeah, and so, like, the
Interesting.
Proxy is waiting for a moment of weakness, and so when he shows up to actually try and kill him, he takes on different forms, and his final form is Maul.
Yeah.
Which he's like, I've been studying this guy for years. But I'm like, how can you study him for years when we literally have like 10 minutes of him, of people actually interacting with him, like,
I don't know,
not knowing anything but whatever.
Yeah. So it's a cool concept, but I remember him when you're flying into Raxus, he's like, basically says something along the lines of, like, there's thousands of droids crying out and being extinguished. Like, this is the place droids go to die. And there's this Jedi Master, Kaz Imperatus, who is the same. He's like the same blue species, small blue species, is like one of the pod racers in
Yeah,
the
he's
Phantom
the
Menace.
the little guy that looks like a little lizard type thing.
Yeah, but
I wish
they're
I
all
could.
they're blue. I don't remember what they are, but like his whole thing is like he has these robotic
Yeah.
legs, spider-like robotic
Yeah.
legs, and he's a Jedi Master. He's powerful, and he has but he uses them to fight, and he has a lightsaber pike, where like it's more like a short staff with a blade on the end of it. So it's it's a different concept.
And he kind of went insane because
Yes.
there's like a Jedi Council chamber or something. Is where
So he built that out of junk.
okay. So like he was like thinking that he was like the last
Yeah.
Jedi, and so he's like trying to protect that
Yeah.
council.
He had like
chamber.
robotic versions of the council members.
Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like he was like one of the hardest people like to fight
Yeah.
for me. Like there was others that were harder, but like for that early in the game, he was quite difficult for me. But
Yeah. Because that was the thing, like he built a replica of the Jedi Temple out of junk, like a full, I'm pretty sure it was to scale, like model of the temple, and you have to like fight your way through it to get to him. So that was super cool. But obviously he's the boss at the end of that level. And it's a super cool fight. And then at the end, when you kill him, it's like this moment where there's like a huge blue pillar of light that it's like his force spirit, joining the cosmic force. That's something that happens in this game. And that is the level with the Star Destroyer, isn't it? Or is that later?
when you return to the planet, that's when it happens. So they're both on
That's
the same
right.
planet, but you
That's
return
right.
back.
So you beat Kaz and Paratus, and then Vader's like, "You've got a final test," and he's like, "This is something he straight up goes, I don't expect you to return from this, but if you do, you'll be ready." And it's going to Felucia to fight Shaak Ti, because she's like the last remaining Jedi member of the Jedi Council, and she survived. She's on Felucia, and she's hiding with her Padawan Maris Brood, and you need to go.
This is like one of like the 10 death scenarios of Shaak Ti.
Of Shaak Ti, yeah. There's so many of them. But you fight Shaak Ti, and you don't end up defeating her technically. She ends up throwing herself into a Sarlacc pit on Felucia.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
killing herself. And you basically rip the master away from her Padawan, who is not there at the time. But you defeat Shaak Ti, same Force Ghost Spirit thing, and then that's when you go back to Vader, and you're like, all right, we're gonna fight the Emperor. But the Emperor has trailed you with spies back to Vader, and then Vader turns on you, stabs you through the chest, throws you around with the Force. This is all happening, by the way, on in construction, like the Super Star Destroyer that's in construction for him. And so in the book, it talks about like all of these secret passageways and secret doors and hangars for the Ebon Hawk, and sorry, not the Ebon Hawk. What is the ship called? Is it the Rogue Shadow? Oh my gosh, this is gonna bother me.
I don't know my...
Ebon Hawk is Knights of the Old Republic.
I feel like that'd be a good name for...
Rogue Shadow is what
Rogue
Tanner
Shadow.
said.
Yeah, it's the Rogue Shadow. Sorry, I got that and Ebon Hawk
Mixed up.
confused.
I feel like Ethan should name his kid that.
Rogue Shadow?
That's a good one. Good job. Good job.
Drew
All
doesn't
right,
get it.
anyways,
Ethan
So-
Hawk, Eben Hawk.
Yeah. They definitely go into more detail about like how secretive Starkiller has to be and stuff on that Super Star Destroyer. But you go back, the Emperor follows you there, Vader stabs you, throws you around, and then throws you out a window into the vacuum of space. Now, this is a point that is very much expanded upon in the books, because he has like a full he's like using the Force to keep himself alive in the vacuum of space, and has like a whole Force vision thing, and like basically partially enters like the Force plane of existence, if my memory serves me correctly, before he wakes up in the workshop where Vader is, putting him back together. And of course he wakes up and he's pissed. Because like in the cinematic, he's like, "You!" And he's like immediately about to jump off the table and fight him, but he's bound to the table. And Vader was like, "I had to do it because the Emperor needed to think you were dead." And like during this time, what's her face?
Juno.
Yeah, I was like, I'm blanking on her name. Juno has been branded a traitor, and she's in prison in the outpost that you're at, the secret outpost, and you're presumed dead, and you have to break her out. And like Jeremiah mentioned, the Darth Vader's like, you're basically going to start the rebellion. And so Juno Eclipse.
So Vader tells him to do that?
Yeah, Vader tells him to do that to distract the Emperor from Vader's plans to destroy the Emperor. So he literally he tells Starkiller to create the rebellion, to pull people together and create the rebellion, so that either A, it succeeds and the Emperor dies, or B, it doesn't succeed, but it's a distraction to get the Emperor's attention off of what Vader is trying to do, because Vader still wants a secret apprentice. And so you break Juno out, and it's worth mentioning that Juno is slowly becoming more of a romantic interest throughout the entire game. Yep. Very little by little. So she continues to become, even from the start, you get a sense that he's attracted to her.
Well, right from the start, he's like hubba hubba, basically. Like, eyes popping out and
So it becomes a thing. It continues to become a thing, and you can tell there's some chemistry there. And then he breaks her out, and you can definitely tell there's some chemistry there. There's a lot of extra like insight in the book into the way he's feeling, where it's way more. You can tell it's way more intense than it seems in the game. But anyways, so they go track down. Sorry, I was looking at the chat. They go and try to find Bail Organa, who has gone to find Shaak Ti. Oops. Goes to find Shaak Ti, and Shaak Ti's not there, and you come in contact with Maris Brood, who has been turned, I would say, influenced at least by the dark side because of the grief of her master dying, and because of Felucia as a planet being stronger in the dark side. And you have to fight a Bull Rancor and fight her, and you decide not to kill her in the end. And Bail Organa says something along the lines of like, she reminds me of another young Jedi who fell to the dark side and destroyed everything. And he's talking about Anakin.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to Kashyyyk, right? Isn't it Kashyyyk after that? Or no, sorry, you get Ram Koda back.
Yeah, he didn't die.
He didn't die. Spoilers, he didn't die. Mm-hmm. He's in a bar washed up with bandages over his eyes. Yeah. He's a drunk at this point, and like you go and get him out. The whole thing is like Bail Organa's like, we need a general, we need Ram Koda, we need, to bring people together. So you go get Ram Koda, who has cut himself off from the Force. His eyes are gone. Like, he's basically worthless at this point. Like, and then you go to Kashyyyk. You end up saving Princess Leia from being under Imperial house arrest. And while you're on Kashyyyk, you have an encounter with your former home and your father's Force ghost.
Ooh.
And so this whole time, like, you're beginning to, as you're doing these things, you begin to realize that there's more to him than just being a Sith. Like, he's beginning to feel pulled to the light side and doing good, and really believing in what these people are doing. But there's just this really quick, really interesting moment where, because like Koda doesn't have his eyes, so he can't see who he is. And you know, he doesn't know, and there's kind of some tension there the whole time, where there are a few times that Coda's like, you know, he says something that may lead Starkiller to believe that he knows who he is, and you see him like reach for his lightsaber for a second, and because like Coda's the only person that can blow his cover the entire operation, but then so like he goes and meets the Force Ghost of his dad. They have a little moment. He rescues Princess Leia, and then isn't that when you go back to Raxus? You have to like strike. You strike at the shipyard. Like the target is the shipyard above Raxus, because you're looking for an Imperial target, and you use the big junk cannon that's supposed to shoot supplies up from the junk.
Tanner said
junk
yes.
world. Yeah.
Okay. This is the problem. Spoiler for my review. Like sometimes it's hard to follow the story when you're playing. So like that, I can't remember exactly why we went back to that Rex.
I do know that there's an Imperial target. You're supposed to get like hit the shipyard. Use this big junk cannon. Yeah. Sorry, I looked down and saw Riley. Rom Coda doesn't recognize Starkiller. Yeah. But anyways, there's a big junk cannon that they use to like shoot supplies up to the space station, or the shipyard essentially, and you like point it at the space station and you destroy it. And then there's a Star Destroyer that breaks away and is like on a collision course with the planet, and that's when you have to bring it down so it doesn't destroy you. Which is super crazy, because this is another like instance where you're like, holy crap, I've never seen anyone do this with the Force. Like, this is a full Star Destroyer. This isn't an X-Wing in a swamp in Dagobah. This is like an entire Imperial spaceship that you're bringing down with the Force. And this was super cool, because in the book, there's this like internal monologue of him going, like breaking into the Force and becoming one with the Force, and like being able to sense every little like air current and movement and how he was directing it. It's super crazy. Like, Jeremiah,
so
I know the way you think, I know the way you feel about the books, but if you enjoy these games, I would highly recommend reading the novelizations.
So here's the funny thing about that part in the game. So like, I knew that was part of one of the things I knew about the game was you pull down a Star Destroyer. So I was like, okay. So I get to that scene and I'm doing it. So, but this is funny, because literally within 5 seconds of me grabbing hold of it and pulling it down, my controller says low battery.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm saying it's funny because like I'm using all the power.
Oh, gotcha.
The Force to like pull us down, and my
controller
is
was losing power.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Okay, well, everyone in the chat is saying he didn't pull it down. It was already falling. Yes,
redirecting.
He
still moved it by himself.
It was falling with style. He made it fall with style.
Yes.
So
and keep in mind, while you're doing this, you're getting shot at by TIE fighters. So like you have to stop moving it.
Yeah.
Then you gotta like start destroying TIE fighters by grabbing hold of them and throwing them away. And then you gotta like grab back onto the ship and keep directing it over and over again. And so that was really frustrating, because
there was a lot of TIE fighter interaction like that, where you're trying to do something and you have to they're flying in, you have to grab it with the Force and like crush it and then throw it at something else to progress in the mission or something. And so anyways, but then he gets the coordinates for the Death Star, the construction side of the first Death Star, for somehow. I don't remember how he gets them. Do you remember? Because they end up going to the Death Star. I don't remember. I just know that like they bring all the leaders together, and then of course that gets my cat has arrived in the room, and of course that gets all the leaders together, and Vader attacks, and he's like, "Surprise, sucker." I actually used you to get all the leaders of the Rebel Alliance together, and now you did it for me. I'm gonna come in guns blazing, betrays Starkiller again, and then he and Juno go to the first Death Star, and that's where they confront Vader and the Emperor. And in the book, like, he straight up becomes like he becomes one with the Force, and it essentially just evaporates into the Force. I think it goes into pretty great detail about that. So yeah, that's the first game. And I'm realizing now, was the Star Destroyer in the second game or the first game?
First game.
It was in the first game? Okay, just want to make sure. But anyways, there is a moment worth noting where right before he drops down to the Death Star to go confront everyone, he and Juno are standing on the platform of the Rogue Shadow. She's like, am I going to see you again? He's like, probably not. She's like, I'll never have to live this down then. And she kisses him. And like all of the love up to that point kind of buds into that moment, and all of their feelings are realized, and it's intense. And then you literally fall backwards. You do the most smooth thing.
Like this?
Smooth. Drew.
Okay.
It's the most smooth thing. And he just like, he kisses her, and then he literally falls back into a backflip off the ramp. I was like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty smooth. So inty ways. So yeah, that's the first game in a nutshell. There's a lot of details that I'm missing, but again, this is just kind of a recap. Jeremiah,
so am I doing my review of each game as we go, or am I doing them both?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I knew that this game was like, everyone loved it, thought it was amazing, so I went into this game with very high expectations.
No. Don't do this to me, please.
And playing the game,
I
can completely understand why 13, 14-year-old Andrew Martin was so hyped about this game and thought it was the best game in the world. And I get how this game is for that age demographic.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult playing the game,
don't.
Like, gameplay was terrible, and the story was like hard to follow. Like, talking about it here, like, the story sounds is like a good story, but the execution of the story, like playing the game, was hard to follow for me. And so, like in all honesty, Starkiller in the first game has like no personality.
Well,
and so, like,
you're not entirely wrong with that.
He has
statement.
he has no motivation. Like, he just does what Vader tells him to do, and he does it. And it's not until like the very end where he kind of has his own choice or personality that comes out. So, like, the thing is, like, the gameplay itself, the mechanics were terrible. Like, honestly, Andrew, if you went back and played that game, you'd be like, this game kind of sucks.
Fun fact, before I loaned my PlayStation 4 to my father indefinitely, so before I gave it to him when I got my Switch, I had a free trial of PlayStation Plus, and that game was on there for free, and I downloaded it. I got super excited. I downloaded it, and the controls were pretty clunky. We've come a long way. We've come a really long way, and it shows.
And it was fun, like, just remembering PlayStation 3 glitches when you're playing. It was just like, oh, I remember having these issues playing PlayStation 3 and not with PlayStation 4. And so, like,
so for its time, it was really good, but now it kind of doesn't hold up.
Yeah, like, it was aimed for middle school people who are going to be like super hyped about like this OP
broken
Force
Jedi
user. And so, like, I get it, but like playing so many other better games with better mechanics and better like storytelling, like, it's not as good as everyone remembers it to be.
I feel like that's a lot of things, though. Nostalgia is real,
Nostalgia does do a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think, and other things about the gameplay, like, the really hard part was locking on to an enemy or trying to pick an enemy to lock on. Like, it was very difficult to like aim at the person you're trying to swing at.
You just go in swinging.
Yeah, and so that's what you have to do. Also, like, with games where you have to do like melee combos and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm not good at that kind of thing, and so like trying to remember like all the
It's no
thousand
Crash
different
Bandicoot.
True.
Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy is the hardest video game ever
It is.
made in the history of the universe.
It is.
If you want to
I stand by that statement 100%.
it's so hard. Don't just remember your nostalgia from playing on PlayStation 1 and don't play.
Dude, I went back and got the Insane Trilogy, and I couldn't get past like the first 5 levels. I was like, I wasted my money on this. I'm not doing this again.
I beat the game. I beat all 3 games on PlayStation 4,
dude.
and it was the most frustrating part of my life. But anyway, so trying to remember all the combos and like all these things, I just sucked at. So I just kind of button mashed half the time in that first game.
Did it work? Well, clearly it worked. You beat it.
What was that? Did it work?
Did it work?
So I beat it. And so in that first game, I chose the light side ending. So I went to go fight Palpatine and defeated him.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Yeah, so that's the first game.
Yeah, they assume the light side endings in the books.
Okay.
Yeah, they assume those decisions for the story of the books. So, yeah.
Oh, but I should say about the first game, I really liked playing on Felucia though. Like that environment of like all the crazy plants and like and then the Felucian natives.
Yeah, which
I thought
we never saw before then, which they're not canon anyways. But
they're super cool because they're like these blue like I don't even know what kind of like
bioluminescent like plant,
like
sentient plant creatures.
But they're kind of like orcs too a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So they're like semi-sentient. They're not like the most whatever, but like they're just like these blue, like primitive fighters that I thought that was just they were cool looking characters, and I like playing on that environment. And playing on Felucia inspired an idea for one of my future Coruscant Cafe videos. So sometime in the near future, you might be seeing something inspired by Felucia.
Interesting.
But yes, I like playing on Felucia. So.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good to know. What would you, on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate this? If you were being generous.
If you were 14.
If you were 14, what would you rate this game?
Okay, so my favorite game of all time, as some of you already know, is The Last of Us. I love that game. And so if that's a 10, then The Force Unleashed 1 would probably have to like a 3. Sorry.
Dang.
Sorry.
Well,
like it was fun. It's like the funnest part of the game was using Force Lightning on Jawas. That was the best thing because you get shotgun and they was like standing there like and then like die.
Sorry, what was that?
What?
So it was like they're just screaming and like that was
sad.
Super
well,
fun.
it's actually funny because that is the exact reaction I have when I drink Wesley Andrews coffee.
Really?
It gives you a little.
It's electrifying. Yeah, in a good way.
Die, but
I
you
don't
die.
No,
Okay.
no. It's the opposite. It gives me life. It's the opposite.
Oh,
that's nice.
It's like
that's cute.
drinking Wesley Andrews coffee is like, it's like sticking a fork into a outlet, but getting superpowers from it. You get a jolt of energy, and then you have superpowers. It's like Static Shock.
Maybe I'll have to try that after
that's a good-
after the podcast. See if I get superpowers.
That's not the way normal reality works.
Empire Radio does not recommend.
Yeah, please don't do that. Don't do that. But you know what you should do? You should definitely listen to a quick word from the sponsor of today's episode, Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea. Hey everyone, Andrew here. I'm pleased to tell you that the sponsor for today's episode is Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea. If you don't know anything about Wesley Andrews, you definitely should. They're an award-winning coffee roaster and shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they make fantastic coffee. The awesome thing is that they have a subscription service that gets those amazing coffee beans delivered to your door on an either weekly, bi-weekly, or a monthly basis. Unfortunately, we're all being negatively affected by this virus right now. With that being said, what a better time to try some new coffee and support a local business. I know they'll greatly appreciate it, and we will too. After all, using the code Empire Radio with a capital E and a capital R with no space at checkout, when you start a new subscription at wesleyandrews.cc, you'll get 50% off your first purchase. I can't think of a better deal. Get 50% off, support a local Minneapolis coffee shop, and support your favorite Star Wars podcast. In the words of Emperor Palpatine, do it.
Do it.
Do it. Get a subscription.
Yep.
Drew, what should they do?
Do it.
There you go. I just looked down.
What are they saying in the chat?
Daddy Palps, this ad is going to believe the virus is active till 2053. I actually have a version that doesn't talk about the pandemic.
Maybe we should.
Well,
slip
the
it out.
pandemic's like kind of a thing still.
Give it
It's
a test
kind
drive.
of
We could give
actually
it a
getting
test drive.
worse. It's
Yeah,
kind of
actually
getting
Jeremiah.
worse.
We maybe the ad is the problem.
Oh, true. Maybe
Yeah.
we're the
Maybe-
source of.
Oh my god.
Maybe the ad created the Delta variant.
I don't want to believe that.
Oh Lord, like my dad has COVID right now, and he's been
What?
vaccinated. That's how.
Oh, gosh.
It's going down.
Yeah, I got vaxxed.
I've been
And
vaxxed too.
I don't
Me
want to
too.
hear. I spent
I don't
all
think
last
it matters.
week. I spent all last week in Nashville without a mask though.
Weird flex.
So, anyways, so Force Unleashed 2, Jeremiah, take us through the plot points.
So right away you find out that Vader cloned Starkiller.
Well, yeah, because you kind of have to like to have a second game, especially if you take the light side ending, where he like literally joins the Cosmic Force.
So he
How-
like dies at the
Oh
end
yeah,
of it.
both endings you die.
Yeah, you die.
Oh.
So
dead.
no matter what path you choose, you die.
Yeah. So it's
So-
like to have a second game, you have to find a loophole around literal death.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. So Vader clones you, and he has you like tied up in a chamber cell thing where like you're just,
Solitary
like,
confinement.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
you're just there by yourself. I guess it's supposed to like make you angry type of things to help you use the dark side better, but whatever. But you find out right away that this is not the first clone of Starkiller that he's one along a long line of failed attempts at cloning, and so right away you learn that things from the original Starkiller's life have produced memories in the clones, and those memories cause Starkiller, I guess, to not embrace the dark side as much or be as skilled as Vader wants, or makes you distracted or whatever. And so whenever these pop up, Vader has that clone killed, and then takes another one that's tries to be a more perfected clone. And so these are very quickly produced clones, because clones in the army were twice the age, but this is like 5 times the speed, because this is takes place like a year later or something like that after
Oh.
the first game.
It's
So,
it's very quick.
So
It's very quick.
So you're maybe it was probably faster than 5. I guess you're like literally same age as you were in the first game, but like a year
Which
later.
leads
so.
me to believe that had been a thing. Like Vader didn't just start cloning him when he died.
Is it like that new horror movie that you've seen commercials for lately? Like they're on an island and every 30 seconds is an hour of your life.
I've seen the.
Have you
ads
seen
for
that trailer?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's
Yeah.
called, but like there's a 6-year-old and then later on she's pregnant. Like super
Yeah,
quick.
I saw a trailer for that.
I was
That
like,
looked
this
crazy.
is kind of crazy concept.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like that. So the character that you play then is one of those failed clones that Vader is going to have killed, but then you escape Camino because this takes that on Camino is where the cloning is, and so you escape
naturally.
And it's basically you on the run from Vader, trying to like find Juno, your love interest, and Master Coda, and all these other characters.
Yeah, I think it's funny because like Coda the whole time is like, which by the way, he's cleaned himself up and learned how to use the Force like Kanan did while he's blind. He's still BA.
And he's like I forget how it happens, but he's like a slave on a planet, and he's used to like fight these monsters and enemies.
And it's on Cato Nemoidia. 2, he and his attack force, they're going to attack an Imperial facility, and he ends up getting captured during that. It talks about it in the book. And Juno is actually a part of that battle in space. So again, there are a few things in the books that are expanded upon that you don't see in the games, which is really cool. So yeah, I do think it's funny that like throughout the whole entire second game, everyone's like, sweet, you can help like turn the tide of the war and continue to support the rebellion. And at every point he's like, where's Juno? I need to, no, I'm just here for her. Like I'm here for the girl. And Coda, like, there are moments where Coda's like, all right, go freaking soul search in the caves of Dagobah and go after this girl or whatever. While there's actually a war going on, you need to
and like
make a decision.
One of like towards the end of the game, one of the biggest battles, like the rebellion people are just getting killed and destroyed, and like everyone's dying, and you're just like, no, I gotta find Juno. She's important to me. Like I gotta save her. Like she's more important than thousands and thousands of rebel soldiers and
like
stuff.
Reading it, there are moments where it's really touching, but then you put that into context of the entire rest of the game and the galaxy, and you're like, so maybe we should rethink our priorities a little bit.
My question is, how does this clone know that he's in love with this person?
Because of his memories.
Oh, so his memories come back. Yeah. Gotcha.
So it's like the cloning process can't remove memories.
Oh.
And so
it is like himself, essentially.
So he's kind of like waking up to his past existence.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There is a lot of debate, and there was a lot of debate in the book too, of if he's actually a clone or something else happened.
Well, that brief summary we watched, he said a clone.
Yeah. Well, because like there's this like there's a lot of debate back and forth even in the game of like General Code is like, no, you can't clone a Force user. You can't clone a Jedi. They go crazy. They're faulty clones. Like that was one of the reasons why, even though it isn't canon anymore, that I'm like, I don't know how Omega would be Force sensitive. Like you can't, like cloning a Force user has just not been a thing in Star Wars canon, I guess, until Palpatine
cloned himself.
Yeah, somehow. But yeah, so like Coda is like pretty adamant about how like, no, you're not a clone. I feel you in the Force. You feel exactly the same as Starkiller. And the Force doesn't lie. And you can't clone a Jedi because it's a problematic process that hasn't been completed before. And like then you're experiencing these memories and stuff. And if they do a good job of like creating enough doubt where by the end of the game you're like,
is it a clone or is it not?
Is it a clone? I mean, technically, excuse me, the light side ending does kind of answer that question because of the way it ends. But also there's kind of an open-ended question there.
Yes.
So anyways, please continue, Jeremiah.
And so, but when after Starkiller escapes, like from Camino at the beginning, Vader hires Boba Fett,
none other.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
To
Boba
find
Fett?
Boba Fett?
Boba Fett.
To find Juno, and he says, if you find the girl, then Starkiller will come to you type of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how towards like the second half of the game is where you know that Boba Fett has Juno and you're going after. But like, what kind of sucked is like I don't even think you never even fought Boba Fett.
Okay, so you do in like the extra. You can in the extra game mode.
Oh, like a DLC or something.
Yeah, where you like it's like geared more as a fighting game. There's some really cool matchups that you can do and some skins you can get in, but not in the game. There are a lot of moments where you have mini face-offs. He has mini face-offs with Boba in the book, but it's like he's chasing him through a hallway. He's trying to get Juno back, like.
But
yeah.
Fun fact though, Drew,
Ooh.
this is the first time that D. Bradley Baker voiced the clone Boba Fett / the Clone Army type of thing.
Ooh.
So like it's D. Bradley Baker that we're used to from the Clone Wars and Rebels and all that
and
stuff.
There are a lot of voice actors in this that are later go on to be in Clone Wars. Because like the voice for Leia, I'm like 99% sure that the voice for Leia in the first game is Padme. And what's his face? Yularen does the voice of the Imperial guy on Kashyyyk that has her under house arrest. And then, like, obviously Sam Witwer.
Oh, yeah.
It plays a bunch of characters, most notably Maul, you know. And I'm pretty sure James Arnold Taylor does some of the Obi-Wan training programs.
Possibly.
Like, there are a lot of voice actor ties in this that later show up again.
Yeah, because in that first game, when Vader shows up at the Rebellion Council meeting or whatever, Proxy comes out as Obi-Wan Kenobi to distract Vader.
Yeah. And
but
it's the same
Vader
kind of
takes
voice.
like 2 seconds and Vader just kills Proxy or whatever. But
so
then you end up back on Camino, and as you're going through the facility, Starkiller is kind of realizing that there's literally thousands and thousands of Starkiller clones in test tubes being grown. Yeah. And so it's basically Vader is creating what could be interpreted as a Force-sensitive army, which is an interesting concept. And so, like, the last, like, I don't know, maybe like hour of the game is you chasing Vader and destroying basically the clone facility as you're going up, and then you face off with them at the end. And like at this time, like the Rebellion is fighting above Camino, and like their ships are like crashing down into the facilities and like destroying them, and they're trying to like they know Vader's there, so they're all trying to like catch up to Starkiller and get there with Vader and capture Vader and all that stuff. And so the end, when you have to choose between, you defeat Vader, and then you have the choice to kill Vader or let him live, and then they just capture him and put him on trial and then have him executed. And so,
well, it's funny because you still die because in one of the endings, The only
way that if you choose the dark side ending, you go to kill Vader, and then another Starkiller comes and kills you, and Vader's like, "We have finally perfected the cloning process."
Oh, because he like straight up looks like a Sith Lord. Like he's got the yellow eyes and pale skin, and yeah. So yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention in the first game is the appearance of Garm Bel Iblis, the Corellian senator from the Expanded Universe, who plays a part in the Thrawn trilogy, plays a part in a lot of, a good amount of the Expanded Universe, and he's from Corellia, and he provides a lot of the fleet for the Rebellion at different times, and is a key leader in the Rebellion in the Expanded Universe. But yeah, so the second game, I thought it was a lot better, but obviously it's kind of a weak concept because it's like, oh, we have a second game, so you're playing as a clone, and you're dealing with the memories. So there's like some nostalgia back to the first game, but really and truly, you don't care about the universe. You're just trying to get back your girlfriend, who became a captain in the Rebel Alliance, a successful, military leader, and was doing other things. And so, anyways, some notable points: the whole arena fight with the Gorog. So Cato Nemoidia, which is where we see Plo Koon die in Order 66. Where the Nemoidians are from, they have cities that are suspended on these like dome-like, arch-like structures between different like mountain ranges and stuff. And then the whole city is built kind of upside down where it hangs, and there are walkways and stuff, between the platforms rather than, having like normal streets or being on the ground or something like that. And so, General Kota gets captured. He's in the arena and he's like fighting super well for this Baron. And when you leave, not Kashyyyk, Kamino, you go and free him, and you take part in this huge battle with this thing called the Gorog, which I've never seen one in Star Wars before. Yeah, never seen one since.
It's giant, like Godzilla-sized monster.
It's like the combination of like an ogre and a rancor, and I don't know. It's huge. It's freaking huge. Because like there's a moment where a rancor comes out of one of the like gates, and Starkiller's ignites his lightsabers because he thinks he's gonna have to fight it, and then this massive hand just snatches the rancor. And it's like the hand alone is the size of a rancor, so that's really fun. So you get Kota back, and then there is a very interesting scene in between that and meeting back up with the Rebel fleet where you meet Yoda on Dagobah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's a moment where he goes to the caves of Dagobah because Kota's like almost kind of sarcastically like, fine, if you want to go soul searching, in this place or the caves of Dagobah, fine by me. Just drop me off at the nearest spaceport. I'll continue fighting the war. So he literally goes to Dagobah and goes into the cave. And as he walks up, he sees Yoda, and Yoda's there, and they have just a casual conversation of like, he's like, so do you guard this place? He's like, no, I'm just an observer. Like typical Yoda, like completely misleading people. And he goes in and has a force vision. He sees different versions of himself. Some other things happen, and he ends up seeing a vision of Juno on the bridge of a ship when the Empire, attacks her. So then he goes to follow it. That's when him and Kota meet up with the rest of the fleet. And as they're on their way to meet her on the bridge, the Empire attacks, or Boba Fett and the Empire attacks. And that's when she gets taken. And it's like Kota didn't tell her that he was on his way, and they didn't tell her about the Force vision ahead of time because he wanted it to be a surprise. And literally, they didn't tell her that the attack was coming. And she got taken by Boba Fett anyways. So the fleet is ordered to attack Kamino in the midst of this battle. So you're like on this big Mon Calamari, or not Mon Calamari. The big cruisers that they have with like the two sections with the thinner like pipe like sections in the middle. You see it in Return of the Jedi. It's like one of their big command ships. Yep. It's one of those, and you're literally in hyperspace battling people on the ship in hyperspace. And then you fight this huge droid. It's like it's called like a Terror Walker or something like that. It's like a huge, attack droid that Boba Fett brings along. You have to defeat that. It's like a mini boss, and then you crash that cruiser because they come out over Kamino, and the planetary shields are up, and Vader knew you were coming, and so there's this big space battle, and they're getting destroyed, and he's like, we can't get through the planetary shields. And like Starkiller's like, well, we'll fly a cruiser into it. So he literally flies a cruiser through the shield into Kamino, and that was a really cool scene in the book. And then that's how you get onto the ground, and then the whole battle starts, and then you end up fighting Vader at the end. So, Jeremiah, would you say that the gameplay at least was better for this game?
It was definitely a lot better. Locking on to enemies was...
I thought that they had improved it a lot.
It was a lot more improved. Like, it was very, like, automatic. Like, basically, like, the closest person or, like, the person you were kind of looking at was automatically locked on. So, like, it was a lot easier. And I like is how they use the force abilities. Like, it wasn't combo based. It was just you use your ability.
Yeah.
Basically. And so, the force lightning was, like, the most OP part of the second game. And so, like, upgrading that ability is, like, makes things so much easier because you can just, like, go into a room with, like, 20 stormtroopers and just basically just fry them all at one time type of thing.
Yeah.
And, like, you could, like, if you were, like, overwhelmed, you could jump up in the air and use your abilities, and you just, like, hover in the air, so, like, you wouldn't get it hit or anything. So you could just, like, jump up in the air over, like one of, like, the little mini, like, rope, like, mini bosses or whatever, and, like, they couldn't hit you, so you could just, like, float above them and, like, just drain all your force energy, like, in your force lightning, and, like, just do all that. So, like, I think, like, the gameplay itself was a lot better, but, like, honestly, the graphics were better in the first game. I remember, like,
oh really,
the cutscene, the cinematics were way better.
Well, the cinematics, but, like, I remember, like, when at the very beginning of the game, when you start escaping the facility, and, like, they show, like, a dropship of, like, troopers being brought in. It's like, I thought it was PlayStation 2 graphics.
Oh gosh,
it was so bad. It was so bad. But, like,
they spent too much money on the
cinematics. Yeah, and so, yes, the gameplay was a lot better, a lot easier flow to it, better control. And I think the story was better to, like, it was easier to follow in the second game than the first game for me. And the final battle I liked against Vader.
Yeah.
Because you have to, like, while you're chasing Vader, he's, like, releasing all these other clone Starkillers after you. And so they're, like, not fully developed, so they're kind of, like, they're not that weak, but they can force push you. Some of them have lightsabers and all this stuff. And so that was fun.
Yeah, they go into a good amount of detail about that in the book, which is really cool. They go into some of the internal stuff where it's like, maybe I am a clone.
Yeah. And so, like, because at the end, when you choose the light side thing, you talk to General Coda, and he says something like, we have to, like, make sure that the real Starkiller isn't still alive. Or, like, he's like, where did you come from if they didn't have a body to clone, type of thing. So, like, implying that the first Starkiller is still
they
alive.
set it up for a third game or a third story, and it never happened.
And then 2 years later, Disney bought.
Yeah, and it got scrapped.
Yeah.
So alas, the mouse has once again come in and changed things. Anyways,
that was a nice way to say that.
Yeah, so, you know, obviously the appeal of these games is, like, you're just OP, and you do a lot of force.
Very OP.
Yeah, you do a lot of things that you never saw in the movies. You know, things that, like, you would joke about with your friends, like, what if you could do this with the force, or, like, you know, or things that would be relatively easy to comprehend someone doing, but it's just never done in Star Wars media. So that was the main appeal, is, like, you're just going through mauling people. Like, in the second game, you can, like, actually cut people. You can cut limbs and heads off. Yep. I was watching some gameplay of this yesterday, and you have to look really closely, but there's a combo you can do where at the end of it, there is a dead stormtrooper, his hands are gone and his head's off, and it's, like, still orange from being cut by lasers.
Maybe that's, like, 'cause I think you can unlock the Unleashed mode.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Which is like, the difficulty past hard. So maybe it's like doing that, like where you have to like really work hard to get to that ability to like, do that.
But yeah, Jeremiah.
And it's a funny note because I was playing on Tanner's system, like my achievements like wouldn't pop up on the screen because he already did them or whatever. But when I beat the second game, I unlocked the light side ending. So we know what Tanner did. But yeah, it was funny.
So how would you rate this game?
I think overall it was better. So if the first game was like a 3, I'll probably give this one like a 6.
Oh wow!
Sweet.
But isn't the
Well,
story
I
not
mean,
as
to be
good as
fair-
the first one though?
To be fair, you get 2 lightsabers in the second one and 1 lightsaber in the first one.
Yeah. Oh, and if you're playing the second game, I didn't realize this, but when you find kyber crystals, they give you like ability traits and stuff, which I didn't realize until like the last couple hours of the game.
Yeah, there's one that like shocks people with force lightning.
That's what I realized is
Yeah.
like, oh, you can use force lightning with your lightsaber. So I equipped that one, and then I did something like makes your force energy like recharge faster or something like that.
Because like they have color crystals, but they also have power ups that you can
Interesting.
add to. So they went a little bit deeper with the lightsaber customization for that game too. And obviously they have the DLC, like the secondary mode where you can fight and you can be different Jedi. You can be like Count Dooku and a bunch of other characters and go through that. There are different skins you can unlock. But yeah. So 6 and a 3. Not terrible.
Not terrible. I'm happy I played them, and I know what they are now, and so I'm thankful. Tanner, if you're listening, you can come over and pick up your PlayStation now.
So my question is, will you read the books?
No.
Okay. Well, I tried. Okay, so I guess the last part of it is like Starkiller as a character. Now, could he fit? If he could, where could he fit in canon? Is it worth it to have him in canon? Like other than wanting to see some really OP force. Like I would personally love to see like a mini series, like a well-made mini series of him, just to see it all in live action.
Yeah.
But like, how is it even worth bringing him into canon at this point? And if so, where? Like, how would he fit?
See, I think it would make sense to have that story, but at the end of the day, we know that they wouldn't defeat Palpatine. So like, like the end goal of that, like we already know how it's going to end. So there's not a lot of like theorizing what could happen. And so like, it would make sense that Vader would want to hire or train a person to overthrow Palpatine. Like I could totally see that happening and happening, but like it doesn't matter because we know how it ends.
Yeah.
And like the OP thing, like I kind of want to see it just because it would be cool,
It'd be really cool. Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, it's like I don't want like that to like outshine all the other Force users that don't do that type of thing.
Yeah.
I like what Tanner said in the chat. They could do a what if for Star Wars. Like if they had like a mini series like they're doing with the Marvel.
Yeah.
If they did like a cartoon series or something like that with what if for Star Wars, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only way that I feel like they could get him in and it be relatively okay in canon is if they made him an apprentice, he got away, and he stayed away from Vader. Like he somehow joined the rebellion and helped them. Like even at the end of the day, it's like, where did he go? What did he do? It doesn't really change the order of galactic events.
Well, that's what it would have to do. He would have to, like in the events of the first game, influence the Rebel Alliance in some way. Like maybe rather, because I think the games take place like 5 years before Episode 4 or something like that, or something like that. So like they could do it earlier than that, where he's involved with like a rebel cell or something like that, or where he sacrifices his life to save someone like a Princess Leia or some other leader that we see, or someone else later that we see.
Yeah.
Where it would add to the story, be meaningful, but it would still be that Vader had an apprentice, failed, and that's why he was never able to overthrow Palpatine.
Well, David in the chat mentioned that you could make Vader have a secret Inquisitor to hunt Cal in Fallen Order 2. Yeah. So he's an ex-Jedi named Galen Merrick. He uses reverse grip dual lightsabers, but he's just a powerful Inquisitor. Like obviously, you would have to tone him down to fit into the canon.
Inquisitor.
Because he would break so many rules and so many standards. Like, yeah. I mean, I think for the sake of being cool, for the sake of like the nostalgia, I think it would be really great. Like I said, maybe just like a theatrical release of like a mini series of the story. But at the end of the day, like I don't know if we're at a place, as sad as that is for this, as sad as it is for me to say this, I don't know if we're at a place where he would actually add something to the Star Wars canon as it is.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe put him in the High Republic.
I was literally just thinking like it would be cool to have his name in the High Republic as an OP Jedi, but like it's not the same character though.
It's not the same character. Like it would be a nice nod, and dual wield, reverse grip, super powerful, but it's like, well, he can't be Vader's apprentice. It can't have the same story. So, anyways, that's our deep dive discussion on Starkiller. I wish that was a more complex like character discussion that we could have, but like really,
there's not a lot there.
He wasn't very deep as a character.
Sounds very quiet.
But here's the thing: if we did get a live action Starkiller, do you think they could get Sam Witwer to be
100%?
Because does he even do live action stuff?
No, I don't think he has.
Because he's still a pretty fit guy, right? Like
yeah.
he's like,
yeah, dude. They could get him in. He's not too old.
Right. Because how old is he? Is he like 35 or something like that, or is he?
I don't know. You looking it up?
Yeah,
let us all know, Jeremiah. Let all the listeners know. How old is Sam Witwer?
Any guesses?
On July 20th of 2021. I'm gonna say 36.
I was gonna guess. I'm guessing 38.
We playing Price is Right rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Over
he
under.
is 43.
Ooh.
Dang it.
He was born like 5 months after Episode 4 came out.
Oh dang.
So he's not old, but
October
he's getting to the
20th,
point where
1977.
they have to make the decision to bring him back
like
soon.
next year.
They have to start filming tomorrow because
Yeah.
he could die at any moment.
Yeah.
Well,
He's not that old.
Just joking. God.
Oh wow. All right. Any more comments or anecdotes or anything like that about almost said Sam Witwer, Starkiller.
Sam Witwer's pretty great. We could
I
talk
mean,
about him like
Starkiller. Sam Witwer is Starkiller, but
and he is Maul. Him and Ray Park are Maul. Like that's
right.
But I have nothing else to say.
A question, Jeremiah. How long do you think it took you to beat both games, hours wise?
The first game, I don't know, it was like maybe 10, 12 hours because I beat it in, started on Sunday or Saturday, like maybe like 5 o'clock, and then started playing it. Played till midnight, and then Sunday evening I beat it by playing in the evening. So it was like maybe like 10 or 12 hours, and then second game I think was shorter. It was probably like 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours or something like that.
Gotcha. Cool.
Sweet. All right. Well, we do have one voicemail.
One voicemail. It was saved by one person.
We have one voicemail.
Our streak since the end of February almost ended, but
yeah,
one of our
Saved by the bell.
One of our newest Discord members, very active.
Yeah,
came and saved the day.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and transition over there. All right.
Voicemail time.
I don't know why I didn't have you do the transition, Drew. Sorry, what was that one more time?
No. One time only.
All right, so like we mentioned. Okay. Like we mentioned, we do have one voicemail from Brittany, aka Death by Pie, in the Discord. If you're on there, you know her, you love her. So we're gonna listen to that right now.
Hey guys, it's Death by Pie, or Steve. And my question for you is, in the Bad Batch, spoiler alert, Rex is being seen or known as being killed in action to the Empire, but in Rebels, he's seen talking to the Empire on a somewhat friendly, not necessarily friendly, but a known basis. What are your guys' theories about how the Empire came to know about his existence? Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that's a really good question because I actually had not made that connection.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because like I haven't really written much on my Bad Batch season 3 stuff.
Oh boy.
And this is like one of the questions is like, how do we get Rex to that planet with Gregor and Wolf, where the Empire knows that they're there, but they'd let him live there and just leave him alone. So like, I don't know how Rex got to that planet and like what led to him fighting against the Empire, but then kind of somehow
retiring.
Like they being like, I don't know. Like it's hard to say because there's so many different. I don't want to think that Rex like bought his way to that freedom by like betraying people or anything like that, or where he gave. I'll give you these rebels here if you let me. I don't think
that's rough.
That would be rough if Rex did that, but I don't think he would have done that. So, but there is something in Rebels, like when we, those 2 episodes when we first see him, he says something like he gave the Empire like locations of planets where hideouts could be used or something like that. Where because they go to Rex looking to find where they could find a place for a rebel base for that group of rebels. So like it could have been like where he gave information to the Empire of where people could go as a rebel for rebel bases, but were empty places. And so like he could have betrayed, but like he knew like he did it safely, like where he's kind of put them in the wrong direction type of thing.
Yeah, like he told them where to go, but then also he told the rebels as well not to go there.
Something like that. So he might have bought his freedom in a sense because he gave them information of some sort.
I think because obviously he's like low-key fighting for the rebellion in the Bad Batch, or it's implied. Or
like he's starting like a rebellion, like hub,
like a cell. Yeah. I think that at some point he reaches a standoff with the Empire and realizes it's better to surrender to fight another day than go out guns blazing.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so I think if it's not a trade of information, I think it's a moment where it's kind of like a Hauser moment, where instead of going out and basically going out in some sort of a battle or a shootout or something, he's like, you know what, I'm going to surrender because people are going to need me in the future, and they go into exile because of that. Or which is interesting because like why would the Empire let them live? Maybe that ties into the information. Maybe really the two theories are actually one kind of interconnected deal, where it's like at first he chooses to live and then they let him live because he offers them information. Maybe that's it, but obviously like he goes from fighting somewhat actively to being in a ATTE, hunting
some underground graboid thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I do think that it's some sort of a combination, because like obviously the Empire lets him live. Either that, or like I guess the more random thing could be that something happens and he's like, I can't do this. I can't fight anymore. Like, we're just going to go into hiding. Something really bad happens and he's like, I just can't be a part of this fight anymore. And they go into hiding, and then somehow they strike a deal with the Empire without the Empire like fully knowing who they are in their entirety. I don't know.
What would be really cool is Dave Filoni makes a Rex show.
A Rex show
from like where we leave off in the Bad Batch. Like, let's say season 2 we don't get Rex again. Like, what we got was the last time we get Rex, right? What if he makes a spin-off show about Rex from that point and his whole journey? That would be amazing.
I will tell you that it is possible we could see Rex in Ahsoka.
Ooh, true.
Because he didn't die on... I mean, he survived the Battle of Endor.
That's true.
So, like, it is possible that because of Ahsoka, they've met up again and we see him somehow.
So, is Rex... Has he only been in animated shows? Has he been in any comics or books or anything?
Maybe comics.
He's made appearances in the comics and books, but like nothing that's outside of the main, like
not like his own thing.
Really.
Yeah.
Like I want to know how Rex and Gregor and Wolf come together. Like I want to know that story. So like if we got an anime show like after Bad Batch, like that's what we get next as an anime show, I would be so down for that.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. But, well, thank you so much for that question, Brittany. That's
for sure.
That's a really good question. And these are the types of questions that we want 12 of
next week.
Kind of transitioning into
because like Drew said, we don't know what we're doing next week, so help us out.
Yeah, so again, if you want to leave a voicemail, we'll talk about how to do that later or in just a second. But if you want to leave a voicemail, and we get 12 of them at least, it has to be 12. We will completely set aside what we're doing and just do voicemails and questions and stuff for the entire episode. So yeah, leading into how you can leave one of those. So if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, there is a link right below the description where it says connect with us or let's connect or something like that. It's links.co/Empire Radio. If you click on that link, it will literally take you to a landing page with all of our social media accounts, including, but not limited to, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. And also there will be a link there to leave a voicemail, which you have 1 minute. You can leave a voicemail. Ask us any question you want. It doesn't have to be Star Wars related.
That is true.
I would say stay away from like, what are your thoughts on the 2020 election or something? Like,
yeah.
Let's keep it away from politics, from spirituality and religion and stuff like that. But it can be like, Jeremiah, what's your favorite thing to make on the fourth
Moon
Friday
of Endor
month, or like I don't know, like
Tuna
something
fish sandwich. So that's a quick answer.
But like it can be Stars related, or it can be like, Drew, what's your favorite gnome? Why do you like gnomes? So, like, I don't know. If you're listen to our Bad Batch episode, and you'll know most recent one. You'll know about gnomes. It's a big thing. But anyways, in that
Drew's
landing
an expert.
page,
So if you want,
he's an expert.
send in your gnome questions. Drew will be your Wikipedia for
what
gnomes.
are we starting?
Yeah. So just
You have
know
done this
that.
yourself.
Just know that there's a link for that, and there's also a link in that landing page to join our Discord, which is going to be the way to talk with us during the week when we're not streaming. But there's also a link to our Twitch channel where we do live streaming sessions of each of these episodes on Tuesdays, as well as the Bad Batch episodes on Fridays, both of which are at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. It also has links to our Facebook and Instagram accounts and our YouTube, which is where recordings of the live streams go after every episode is aired live.
And we do some other things on there too, like
we do, like Coruscant Cafe.
Coruscant Cafe, where I do Star Wars themed cooking videos. And so I only have 3 out now, but I have a list of ideas. And there might be a vlog of some sorts coming in the coming weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
A very interesting one.
Yes.
So look forward to that.
So you can find that link, that landing page in our Instagram bio underneath the audio version of the podcast and in our Twitch About Us section. If you go over there, I also believe it's underneath the YouTube videos in the description too, right? Is that over there?
All of our socials?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a few different ways you can find it, but the easiest, especially if you're listening to the audio version, just go down in the description and click that link. It'll take you to everywhere you need to go. So yeah. Anything else?
Yes, one last thing. I'm on Sam Witwer's Wikipedia page.
Oh, okay.
So we always talk about, that's a good band name type of thing. So I guess he's a musician.
Okay.
And so in high school, he was a lead singer in a band named Love Plumber.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So there you go, folks.
That's pretty cool. Now you know.
Now you
know.
Right, that's all I got.
All right. Well, on that note, you have been listening to another Wizard episode of the Empire Radio Podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Drew.
And may the Force be with you.